Good day everyone. For today's video, I will make a report for my CDI1. By the way, I'm Eduardo P. Amaro Jr. So, an overview of my report is this: surveillance and undercover assignment, reactive and proactive method of investigation, and the last one is the crime scene search. What is surveillance? Surveillance is the designated or secret observation of places, persons, and vehicles for the purpose of obtaining information concerning an identities or activities of the subject. Two types of surveillance. And type of surveillance: the covert surveillance and overt surveillance. So, when we say covert surveillance, when the subject is not aware that he is being observed, while in overt surveillance, when the subject is aware that he is being tailed. Purpose of surveillance. So, the purpose of surveillance is to get information on criminal activities, to discover the identities of persons frequenting the place of established their criminal activities, to obtain evidence of a crime or to prevent the commission thereof by arrest or raid, to establish a legal grounds for the application of a search warrant, and to arrest the criminal in flagrante delicto. The word flagrante delicto is that person is huli sa akto sa paggawa ng krimen. So, a law enforcer pwede niya arestuhin ang isang tao kahit walang warrant of arrest, basta caught in the act. So, special method of surveillance. So, four type of special method of surveillance: wiretapping, concealed microphones, tape recorder, and television. Kinds of surveillance: surveillance of places, tailing or shadowing, undercover investigation, or roping. Surveillance of places are the crime which requires this type of surveillance are gambling, abortion, prostitution, illegal sale of drugs or alcohol, dishonesty among employees, or infidelity in a divorce. So, objective of surveillance of place. So, to detect criminal activities, to discover the identities of the person and frequent, to establish and to determine the relationship. Shadowing or tailing. Shadowing or tailing is the act of following person. So, the purpose of shadowing is to detect evidence of criminal activities, to establish the association of a suspect, to find a wanted person, to protect a witness, and to discover the association, amusement, and habits of an employee who has been proposed for position of responsibility. So, the don'ts in shadowing. So, first is don't meet the eye of the subject. Second one is don't wear storybook disguise. And don't carry briefcase, notebook, papers, or other noticeable objects. Don't greet fellow officers or allow them to greet you. Methods of foot surveillance. So, it include one-man shadow, two-man shadow, and three-man shadow, or ABC technique of shadowing. Tactics and technique of shadowing. First is general and the second is particular. So, in general, the subject should be kept unaware of the shadowing operation, while in particular, it include turning corners, entering building, riding a bus, and etc. Undercover assignment. So, undercover assignment or roping is a form of investigation in which the investigator assumes a different unofficial identity in order to obtain information. Undercover operation is an operation wherein the investigator assumes a fictitious identity in order to infiltrate the ranks of the criminals for the purpose of obtaining information. It is an investigative technique in which an agent conceals his identity in order to obtain information from the target organization. Object of undercover works: obtaining evidence, obtaining information, checking informant, fixed surveillance, checking loyalty, or subversive organization, security check, and preliminary to search or raid. Selection undercover works. So it include background, temperament, and intellect. So as an investigator, so you must be able to fit the environment of where you assign. Temperament naman, dapat as an investigator, dapat marunong kang mag-adjust. Intellect. So ito po yung an investigator, dapat wais ka pag undercover. Common place assigned from underwork. So it include neighborhood assignment, social assignment, organization assignment, and work assignment. So yung neighborhood assignment, ito yung kung saan ka ina-assign. Then social assignment, ito po yung frequent place or kung saan laging pumupunta yung subject. And organization, dapat alam mo kung saan, anong grupo siya ang pinapasukan niya. Then work assignment, the preparation for assignment. So it include study the subject. So it is important to study the subject, especially their name, full name, and nicknames. Knowledge of area. So as an investigator, you must a knowledge in area. You must have a knowledge on map, his national, transportation, and public utilities. Subversive story. As an investigator, you must know the history and the background of organization, biography of the official. You know the identity and background of members and the former members. Method of identification employed by the members. Files and records, just like nature, location, and accessibility. Meeting, just like schedule and places. Cover story. So in a cover story, it is a fictitious background and history for the new character of investigator. Should be prepared, including the names, addresses, and description of the assumed places of education, employees, and association. Physical details. Person position should be obtained through the undercover investigation, which are appropriate to the character assumed in a quality, price, age, fit, degree of cleanliness. Tasting. The investigator should memorize all details in connection with his assumed role and the fictitious portions of his biography, disclosure of identity. The investigator should be instructed not to disclose his identity, or he should remain undercover if arrested by the civilian authorities. Two types of criminal investigation. So the first one is reactive investigation and the second one is proactive investigation. So in reactive investigation are the traditional manners in which police become involved in the investigation of crime. Reactive investigation are often divide into the initial investigation and the follow-up investigation. While in proactive investigation or proactive strategies, which are often covered in nature, usually involve the police initiating investigative activities prior to the occurrence of a crime. Through proactive type investigation, the police place themselves in a position to deal with crime before it happens. Proactive method of investigation. So it include blinding operation, stakeout operation, decoy operation, and interdiction. So in blinding operation, the officer dress in civilian clothes to blend into an area and patrol it on foot or in unmarked police cars. While in make stakeout operation, it is the consists of a group of a heavily armed officer who hide in the area of the store or building. Decoy operation, those officers dress as and play the role of potential victims, just like drunks, nurses, tourists, and etc. Interdiction. Interdictions involves the interception and seizure of drugs smuggled. Crime scene search. Gathering records and preserving evidence in the crime scene is a necessary job in an investigation. Insufficient search or delay on the part of the investigator in conducting the search could affect the result of the investigation. Moreover, the investigator should also consider or give extra care in crime scene operation, since all the necessary evidence in connection of the crime are there. The evidence must be in position by the time the suspect leave the scene until the investigator arrived therein. Furthermore, the investigator places himself at the spot where there are no physical evidence that will be tempered and comes an estimate and to what form of search will be employed. From there, he could determine the different angles and view to take the photographs of the scene. It's also important that the evidence is properly collected, marked, tagged, and preserved. Crime scene. Crime scene is not a merely immediate area where a body is located or where a assailant concentrated his activities, but also the place of retrieval of physical evidence, which include the vehicles and its access and escape routes. So the golden rules at the crime scene. So never touch or move any object at the crime scene unless the properly photographed, measured, and indicate in the sketch. Crime scene rules. So first, do not use the crime scene as a temporary headquarters. Second, do not unnecessarily touch anything. Third, get names of the person present and seen, including police officer, coroner, and so assignment of duties. The first one is officer in charge. So this is the one who direct the search, assigns duties, and assume responsibility for the effectiveness of the search. The second is assistant. He must implement the orders of the OIC. The third is photographer. He photographs the scene and individual pieces of evidence. The fourth is sketcher. He makes a rough sketch of the scene given and later a finished sketch. Master note taker. One who writes down in short and hand the observation and description during the search. Evidence man. He collects, preserves, and tags article of evidence. And the last one is measurer. He makes overall measurements of the scene.